So, this is not a video I was expecting to make in this format, but here we are. And you know what? Knowing that this is Doom of all series, that's the most depressing part of it all. Because Doom is too good to be in a video like this. But unfortunately, for the sake of this video, I have to make an exception, okay? It's not because I want to, but because I have to, okay? I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I'm like a disappointed father who's looking at the grades for his son's report card, only to see nothing but F's and 1D+. This is basically that. Okay, it's not completely that, because this is not a bad DLC. It's pretty good overall, but there's a lot here that's wrong with it that makes it disappointing and not as good as it should be, because there's the potential here for it to be so much better, to be fantastic, but it just isn't that, and I want to get into that, because, you know, I gotta keep it honest. You know, I don't like lying about my opinions. Unless, of course, I need to lie about my opinions. But in this case, I do not. So, yeah, let's be honest here. Starting off, it's actually pretty strong. The first level of the DLC is pretty on point. It's all around extremely solid. There's nice enemy variety here. Very nice map design as expected from id. The music is on point throughout the whole DLC. Granted, it's still very different because it's not mixed music, but it's still good nonetheless, although one thing that I'm not a fan of, and this isn't the DLC itself, has to do with the main menu music. The fact that you can't listen to Mick's theme anymore that he made for the game, it's not a big deal, but it is disappointing because it's always just a nice tune to hear every time you log into the game, and for it not to be there anymore, it's a little sad, you know, it brings a little tear to my eye. So I just wanted to mention that real quick. But back to the first level, it's good. But then from there, after an hour of spending your time playing through that, you get to the second level, and then that's when you really start noticing all the issues with this DLC and just how rushed it feels, because the second level feels like it's half the length of the first, and then the third from there is even shorter, which then leads to an endgame type finale out of nowhere, only to then lead to a final boss fight, which is literally a Marauder on steroids, which you have to go through 5 waves of, all the while having to avoid getting hit, because every time you get hit directly by this enemy, unfortunately, he manages to gain health back. And in a lot of cases, he's gonna gain all of his health back. And it's just as annoying as it sounds. It's extremely repetitive and tedious. It's not fun, and it's the reason why I didn't even bother beating the DLC. It was just too fucking annoying to deal with, and I just ended up looking up the ending on YouTube, because I'm just not gonna deal with this annoying bullet sponge of a final boss. Like, this is just a really disappointing way to end what was probably supposed to be a lot better than how it turned out, because it feels like it just needed a lot more time to be baked in the oven, because with how everything just completely speeds up, the way it's just like, oh, we're just immediately going after the Dark Lord right after. Like, yeah, that's the whole point of it, but the way it's done just feels so sudden. And the way they go about retconning it with how it turns out that the Doomslayer was a creation of the Dark Lord. What? Yeah, I'm not really feeling that story beat. Although the way that they put him back into his tomb is pretty cool, and, you know, it's like how it's pretty much repeating the cycle. It's pretty hard to say where things are going to go from here. I assume, as of now, the series is going to go on a bit of a break. Maybe we'll get another game, and then it'll go on a break, but right now, it definitely does feel like it's saying, okay, we're taking a small detour from Doom for a little while, which that's fine. If they feel burnt out and need to work on something new, I get it. You know, don't force yourself to work on something if you don't feel passionate about it. With how much hype and anticipation there was, I honestly feel like, all things considered, even with part 1, yes, while I didn't hate that DLC, I still did enjoy it somewhat, as frustrating and as overwhelming as it is. I think that, all things considered, I would have preferred a third game leading up to a final boss battle with the Dark Lord instead of this. I just think that even if there had been enough time dedicated to making this DLC, which I have no idea if it was rushed, that's just what I think. I think that with them having to get this out within the first year of the game being released because of contract reasons, it made it to where they just didn't have enough time to finish it, and the reason for that being the pandemic and how development no doubt got slowed down to probably a bit of a halt for a little bit, and from there having to really rush to get it out the door when it clearly wasn't ready. Like, one thing I noticed, which it wasn't too frequent, but considering the length of this DLC, since it's only around 3 to 4 hours long, I was not expecting it to be this short. I was thinking like 5 to 6 hours, but again, it feels rushed. Anyways, something I noticed was this one glitch with how the game would constantly turn on motion blur. I had to go back and disable it. Again, it's not too big of a deal considering everything, but still, just little things like that happening in a DLC as short as this, like, something like that is going to be noticeable. Also, some of the new enemy types that they have here, such as the Curse Demon, where when it hits you, you can't dash, you can't kill it with your guns, you have to blood punch it, but if you don't have enough blood punch built up, then you gotta go fight more demons, and you can't properly fight them because of how you're cursed, so you can't properly move or do anything as well as you can. It's just, it's a really annoying enemy. It's not fun at all. Just like the final boss. And there's also the Armored Baron, which, that's just annoying as well. It's a bullet sponge where you gotta go through 2 waves of it. It's just not enjoyable. All in all, it's not a bad DLC. It's pretty decent, but there's just a lot of issues here. And again, there just needed to be a lot more here. The potential for it to be so much better was so obvious, but it's not as good as it can be. And again, all things considered, I think I would have preferred a 3rd game leading up to this instead of getting 2 DLCs following Eternal's release in the first year. It's just, I don't know, I just expected a lot more. I think it could have been a lot worse as well. The fact that they got out anything on time like they did is at the very least commendable. But hopefully they can avoid something like this happening again in the future, and with this game having so much hype behind it, for the story to end, you know, for the saga to end on such a note like this, with this final battle, like, really, that's it? It's just, it's disappointing. Not bad, but could have been a lot better. Needed a lot more time to be worked on, I feel. It just wasn't ready. Yeah, that's really all I have to say for this rant. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a like or dislike, comment, subscribe for future content coming soon, as well as turn on a notification bell and set it to all notifications, and I'll see you all next time. But until then, I'm out. Later.